So when you came in this morning, you hopefully got a piece of paper and an envelope. And you also got a little tiny piece of paper. If you didn't get any of these things, you can just raise your hand up and the ushers will come by and they'll bring it to you if you just keep it up. This little one is flash paper. And the flash paper is for our burning bowl ceremony. And you can either hold this paper in your hand and just do an energy release anything just straight into this paper, or you can take a pencil or a pen that's in the seat in front of you and just start writing anything that you would like to let go of and writing it onto that paper. Some of us have been known to fill the whole paper with mini writings, little mini words. But that's your flash paper. This other paper is for the new year. This is a paper to write a letter. And we have some folks over here that still need paper. Right over here. This piece of paper, you'll take some time and you'll be writing a letter a little bit later in the service. And that letter, you can choose to either address it to yourself and turn it in, and we will return it to you before the new year, next year. Or you can keep it and take it home with you and put it in a safe place on an altar or put it somewhere that you carry that you feel like, you know, has some healing energy, a place that's a safe place, a place of reverence. And so you can do either of those things with that paper. The only thing you can't do with that paper, I grew up Catholic, the only thing you can't do with that paper is put it in any of the burning bowls. Can I see everybody's eyes? Can you all see me? That would not be a release. That would be a catastrophe. Inevitably, we've had that happen most years. So that letter is something for you. That letter is part of this release tradition, this ritual. And that letter is really a love letter from stillness. A love letter from stillness. One of my new favorite meditation teachers and authors is this man, Jeff Foster. Jeff Foster wrote the book, The Deepest Awakening, Radical Awakening, The Deepest Acceptance, rather, Radical Awakening in Ordinary Life. He and one of his kind of counterparts, he lives in England, and his friend Matt Licata lives in Colorado, who wrote the book, The Path is Everywhere. These two spiritual teachers really embody a depth to the spiritual practice that I think is needed and necessary. When Jeff Foster wrote his book, he said that the words in this book are a love letter from stillness. That was his intention. That's his knowing and the gift that's going through that book. But what I have learned from those two authors that is so crucial and helpful to our unity practice is that when we do ceremonies like the release ceremony of the burning bowl, when we do any growth work or transformation work, and when we have any sort of discussions that revolve around making something better or changing something, it is so important to, with that at the base of that practice, at the depth and the soul of that practice, to come from a place of non-duality. To come from a place of absolute wholeness, where even though with the human condition, we might be wanting to release or let go of something, we're not doing it from a place where we're calling something wrong, we're calling it bad, we're pressing it away, we're having, nasty resistance energy to it going like, do you see what I'm saying? When we hold that energy, we actually sometimes create a bond between ourselves and what we're intending or hoping to release. True healing comes from radical acceptance and deep compassion. Such a deep compassion that rather than like trying to burn something to get it away, what we're burning or releasing is our attachment to something, is our identity, identifying with something so strongly that we know there's something more for us, there's a greater wholeness within, and we're not experiencing it because we are identified with something. Now, for some people, this may take the form of injury and hurt from relationships. We all know people or are people that at one point in time, something happened in our lives. Something happened. And from that moment on, we made an agreement with limitation. We made an agreement with right and wrong. We made an agreement with bad. We may have thought, because I didn't plan it like this, now I don't live in the field of infinite possibilities. Because I wasn't expecting life to go this way, now, from now on, everything will be tainted by this thing that was wrong. We know that that is the human condition. That's the ego mind, the carnal mind. The carnal mind will find any way it can to make the present moment a problem. It will find anything it can to compare to say, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's having a marriage or a divorce, whether it's having an illness, whether it's having a job transition. Do you see what I'm saying? Something happens at one point and someone says, whether it's an abuse, whatever it is. But we all in this human condition have things that we can say, that was wrong, that was bad, it wasn't supposed to happen like that. And from then on, we can live as if we're somehow tainted, infected. Somehow, life is part of the problem. We know the spiritual condition raises above all that. The spiritual condition knows that even when something that human-wise looks like, well, that just changed my whole life and it's never going back, and there are definitely not infinite possibilities from here on out. The spiritual condition whispers, not true. The spiritual condition whispers, you are whole. The spiritual condition whispers, you are holy. You are always be in good favor. You are always to be blessed. You are always to be living in the light. There are always more possibilities for you. Every time you step into one doorway, a whole nother world flowers before you. Are you willing to see it, or are you going to turn around and look through the doorway of darkness into the limited? The spiritual condition asks us to look forward, asks us to move forward. So as we engage in this ritual, in this ceremony today, think of people of all times and the rituals they've engaged in. In Catholicism, the religion I grew up in, there was confession, though I kind of was after the phase where you actually went to confession. I saw the booths and I knew about it. But that's a practice in the Catholic Church where people have an opportunity to release. There are some things sometimes that happen to us or that happen within us that are in our minds that there is no one on this planet we're ever going to be willing to share it with. No one. That even just saying it out loud is going to be too hard. And sometimes with confessionals, that's what creates the space. Like you could think of it as funny, like, there's someone in a booth, a dark booth, and you can't even see them. You see it in movies and they're sitting forward and someone walks in. But truly think of the gift of that you can finally say the thing you feel so ashamed to say. You can finally share the thing you could never find the courage to share with another human being. And you can finally get it off your chest and lift that weight. All spiritual practices have some sort of ritual that helps us lift the human condition. The element of fire is used, the nature element, because it's the element of transmuting something. It's the element of taking something and dissolving it, alchemy. So what we're doing in a burning bowl is not denying what is. We're denying that anything at all has the power to limit us. And what we're really doing is nurturing ourselves in the human condition. What we're really doing is stepping into radical compassion. Compassion that holds us. What we're willing to do in the burning bowl ceremony is to take an honest inventory of the things in our lives or in our hearts, a real look at our own internal landscape, and to look at the things we might be saying to ourselves over and over. I want X, Y, and Z to work. I want this thing to work. Whatever it is, I want it to work. But there may be a deeper voice saying, X, Y, Z isn't working. It's time to let go of it. I want this change to happen. I want this change to happen. And maybe it's time to say, I need to accept them just as they are. I want this shift to happen. I want this shift to happen. And maybe it's time to release the attachment to that shift, going, this or something better. I can fully embrace and be with where I am. I can be in the deepest acceptance of this now moment, in a space that opens up and allows the transmuting fires to reach the identification of any form, the attachment to any limitation or form. Letting go of things working out the way we think they should. Letting go of any shame, any secrets. Letting go of anything that no longer serves. I want to share a reading from one of my favorite books. It's by Paul Ferrini, and it's called I Am the Door. And it's written as if it was written by the master teacher. And it says this, it says, God does not come from on high to free you from a world of your own making. Why would he take you from what you have chosen? God comes through your gesture of acceptance toward your ego mind with all its fearful imaginings. He comes in the love and compassion you bring to the wounded one within you and outside of you. He comes when you reach down to embrace the dark wings that hover in front of the door of your fear. These wings will not hurt you. They will not rob you of your innocence, no matter how much abuse has been given or received. See through the dark disguise and come into the warmth of these wings. There is a door here that leads straight to the heart. You cannot come to God if you do not go through the dark night of the soul. All your fear and shame must be raised. All your feelings of separation must come up for healing. How can you rise from the ashes of your pain unless you will acknowledge the pain? If you pretend the wound isn't there, you can't begin your spiritual journey. Don't deny that it hurts. Come into your pain. It is not what you think. When you have the courage to approach the wall of your fear, it turns into a doorway. Come through this door. I am waiting for you on the other side. The burning bowl today is that doorway. The Course in Miracles says the resurrection of the world awaits your healing. The resurrection of the world awaits your healing and your happiness, that you may demonstrate the healing of the world. It says, be healed that you may heal. It says suffering is an emphasis on all the world has done to injure you. Your suffering is an emphasis on all the world has done to injure you. It goes on to say that we cannot escape a source that we perceive to be outside of ourselves. If we think our suffering is sourced from outside of ourselves, there is no escaping it. Though a common mind would think it's insane to create your own suffering and sit within it. The Course says, now you are being shown you can escape. All that is needed is for you to look upon the problem as it is and not the way you have set it up. All that is needed is for you to look upon a problem as it is and not as you have set it up. It says, without the clouds, the problem will lift in all of its primitive simplicity. It will lift in all of its primitive simplicity. Can we believe that there's a possibility that there are layers to the things that we resist and we call problems, and that there are other ways to perceive or to see it that simply allow what feels like a miracle of healing to, in an instant, let the layers of what we create around it that does not serve simply dissolve? This is our opportunity. So I invite you to, with your burning bowl paper, begin to write whatever comes to you, whatever attachments, whatever perceptions no longer serve you. Even if you still believe in them, that's okay. Feel free to just let them flow, or just hold on to that paper and press the emotions that are attached, or close your eyes and have the visualizations of anything that is of discord and just press it into that paper. And when you're ready, you can also begin to write your letter. We're doing this burning bowl very organically, so that whenever you feel called, you can start your letter. Whenever you feel called, you can start working with your burning bowl paper. And you can go to any of these candles. There are 2 in the front, and there's 1 in the back of the sanctuary. If you need support getting to one, you can ask an usher or a neighbor to bring yours to you. And you can do the burning bowl first and then write your letter, or you could write your letter first and then come up to the burning bowl. There's going to be supportive music going on while you engage in this ritual. But for your letter, here's the invitation. Think about it being a love letter from stillness, a letter of intention. Depending on what feeds you, you may think of it as a letter to your higher self or a letter from God. You could think of this like a baby book. Have you seen in those baby books where it says, my wish for you is, what I've noticed and what I know about you is, and then you pay such close attention to that baby. You say, you are strong, you were resilient, you were like this and you were like that. Think of the letter like that, and you're removing your ego to the point where you are just supporting yourself with this love letter for this next year, saying what you see for you. What I see for you is this. I am knowing this for you. I know within you this year you will develop. I know this power lies within you. But breathing into a deep and fearless acceptance of whatever comes your way this next year, and whatever you would like to support within consciousness in this letter. So think of that love note, what you would write, and get out of your own self, but begin to see yourself from a perspective that is beyond your self-identity. So I invite you to breathe in